For decades, Hezbollah has been one of the most powerful and, let's face it, resilient forces in the Middle East. But what happens when the very pillars holding all that power up start to crumble, all at once? In this explainer, we're going to dive into the perfect storm of crises, from inside Lebanon, across the region, and from its ultimate patron, Iran, that are putting Hezbollah in a truly dangerous spot.
The source material we're looking at paints a pretty stark picture, right? It pinpoints September 2024 as this critical turning point. This quote, it sets the stage for a dramatic unraveling, calling it a nadir, the absolute lowest point. So what exactly kicked all this off?
Well, the catalyst was the death of their longtime iconic leader, Hassan Nasrallah. And look, whether he was killed by an Israeli airstrike or suffocated in his bunker, the result was exactly the same. His death did way more than just take a commander off the board. It ripped the veil off the movement's growing weakness, exposing these deep cracks that had been forming just under the surface.
And that brings us to the first circle of pressure. To really get what's happening to Hezbollah, you've got to start at home, right inside Lebanon, where the very foundation of their power is starting to show some serious cracks.
Just look at this contrast. It's pretty wild. Hezbollah built its support by being the group that got things done, providing welfare, rebuilding faster than the state ever could. But now, almost nothing's been repaired since the 2024 war. The source even tells this incredible story about a woman whose check from the group actually bounced. What a powerful symbol for how they just can't provide for their own people anymore.
And it's not just their money that's drawing up, their political cover is too. It used to be you just didn't talk about Hezbollah's massive arsenal. Now, that taboo has totally evaporated. You've got Lebanon's own president, Joseph Aoun, calling their weapons a burden, and you see it debated openly on TV. The group's political armor is just chipping away. But the problems aren't just at home, so now let's zoom out and look at the second circle of pressure, the whole regional network. This is where Hezbollah's crucial lifelines for money and weapons are being cut, one by one. And wow, this really shows a devastating 1-2-3 punch to their operations. First, you've got Venezuela. The abduction of Nicolas Maduro basically shut down a massive pipeline of cash from crime and illicit oil. That money has reportedly just dried up. Second, Syria. The fall of Bashar al-Assad's regime didn't just cut off a key land route for weapons, it completely changed the power dynamics in the region. And third, they've lost control of Beirut's airport, which was their personal hub for moving people, weapons, and cash from Iran. Any one of these would be a huge blow. All of them together, it's catastrophic.
So, all of this brings us to the final, and let's be honest, the most critical circle of pressure, their ultimate patron, Iran. Because right now, the Iranian regime is facing its own existential crisis, fighting huge threats from both inside and out.
Just look at this number. Over 6,300 confirmed deaths in the regime's crackdown on protests, and some opposition sources say the real number could be as high as 30,000. That number alone tells you everything about the scale of the threat the Iranian government is facing at home. Its own brutal response is exposing just how vulnerable it is. And while Iran is fighting for control on its own streets, this is what it's facing on the outside. President Trump warned of a massive armada, and it's not just talk. You've got the USS Abraham Lincoln carrier group, destroyers, fighter jets, new air defense systems. It's creating this intense pincer movement of pressure right on Tehran.
So what would a U.S. strike actually look like? Well, diplomats have been gaming out a few different scenarios. It could be a symbolic strike against the Revolutionary Guard, or a much bigger campaign aimed at full-on regime change. And then there's this hybrid option, an operation to take out key leaders before trying to make a deal with whoever's left. These are the very serious possibilities that are on the table.
So how does a regime under this much pressure react? It tightens its grip. And for Hezbollah, that means their leash just got a whole lot shorter. The big decisions about weapons, about strategy, about when to escalate, those aren't being made in Beirut anymore. They're coming straight from Tehran. Because right now, Iran is all about its own survival. Okay, so when you pull all these threads together, the squeeze inside Lebanon, the lifelines being cut across the region, and a patron state literally fighting for its own survival, you are left with a profoundly uncertain future for one of the region's toughest players. And this quote from activist Ali Alamin, man, it just gets to the absolute core of who they are. For Hezbollah, weapons aren't just a tool, they are its heart, its entire reason for existing. Disarmament isn't an option for them, because in their minds, it would mean they just stop being Hezbollah.
And right alongside that belief is this one, which is just as powerful. As this observer in Beirut put it, their dependence on Iran isn't just strategic, it's ideological. It's this deep, foundational belief that their patron is infallible, eternal.
And that leads us to the final, unavoidable question that hangs over this whole situation. If weapons are Hezbollah's heart and Iran is its god, what happens when that god is under siege from every direction? Can the heart of Hezbollah possibly keep beating? The answer to that question is probably going to define the future of not just the group, but of Lebanon and the entire Middle East.